First of all, I want to congratulate all the other nominees. It's just an honor to be a part of an organization whose members are fighting every day to make the world a more just place, and nothing better exemplifies that than what we're doing today. So thank you all for the work you're doing. So as Greg said, my case is Coates versus Farmers. This case has been all over the news, and I'm sure that many of you know about this case, in which a farmer's attorney discovered that she was being paid about half as much as her male colleagues who were doing the same work. Now, we all know the basic statistic that women are paid roughly 79 cents to a man's dollar. But what you might not know, and what I learned in investigating this case, is that if we could achieve equal pay for women, it would cut the poverty rate in half. I also learned that if women were paid equal to men in California, $34 billion would flow into the California economy overnight. So the importance of this issue and the result in this case are why I joined Mike Arias and Jonathan Gertler in nominating this case for the Consumer Attorney of the Year award. So let's go through the facts really quickly. In 2014, Farmers Insurance attorney Lynn Coates discovered that a male colleague doing comparable work earned almost twice as much as she did. She asked her manager to look into it. He was sympathetic, said he would. He came back about a month later and told her that the company had acted appropriately and that her salary would not be adjusted. And then she was demoted. So you heard the definition of the award of this case, but there are also 6 factors, and I'm going to go through those factors because it will show you why this case deserves to win. And the first factor is whether the case demonstrates how the civil justice system works to provide justice to victims, change behavior, or hold wrongdoers accountable. The settlement gave meaningful relief to some 300 class members, with some receiving upwards of $50,000. Perhaps even more impressive than that is that the case also provided justice for women who were not even class members. Lori and her team extracted a promise from Farmers that it will increase the representation of women at every level within its claims litigation department year on year for the next 3 years. The second factor is that the case exemplifies how attorneys representing consumers or victims use their skill and determination to create a more just society. Well, since Hannah-Beth Jackson's Fair Pay Act and this case, which was publicized in the LA Times, the Recorder, the front page of the Daily Journal, and the Wall Street Journal, California legislators have reprioritized the equal pay issue. And you can see this in 2 recent bills that were introduced, AB 168 by Assemblymember Susan Eggman, which would prevent an employer from asking about or relying on the salary history of a job applicant. The second one that was just introduced, AB 1209 by Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, it would require companies with at least 500 employees to compute the differences between the wages of male and female exempt employees and file that report with the state of California. So we know that this case is already influencing the law. And we know that it's created a more just society also just based on the comments of attorneys who do this work on a daily basis. One of whom said, quote, "The concrete injunctive relief will hold farmers' toes to the fire so that there is real change going forward." Another attorney commented, quote, "This case sends the message loud and clear to companies that they will not get away with paying women unfairly." So the case has created a more just society. The third factor, the case demonstrates a particular skill of the attorney in achieving the result. So let's review this. When the case was brought to Lori, it was only a single plaintiff case. But Lori saw the makings of a class action. Then she made this the first case to allege a claim under Senator Hannah-Beth Jackson's Fair Pay Act, the strongest equal pay law in the nation. Then, 9 months into litigation, Lori changed the dynamic again by adding current employees as named plaintiffs, and Farmers came to the table. Although the LA Times had predicted that the lawsuit would not be resolved for years, Laprairie negotiated the settlement within a year from the filing of the class action. The fourth factor, the attorney faced and overcame unusual obstacles, great risk, or incredible odds. For those of you who do class actions, of course you know that not only are they notoriously risky, they can take years to resolve, require thousands of attorney hours, and potentially mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in case costs that may never be recovered. Not only that, getting a class certified is harder and harder, and with an automatic right to appeal, even certification isn't a guarantee. The judge, I'm sure many of you have, if you've not already appeared before United States District Court Judge Lucy Coe, you've probably heard of her. Extremely tough judge, one of the toughest judges in the country. She finds gaps in any legal arguments without fail, and she doesn't stand for any games. So impeccable, relentless preparation was required in this case. Defense counsel, she faced Paul Hastings, a 1,200-person law firm. The person who was the lead counsel was also represented Walmart in the famous Dukes versus Walmart case, so she'd been around the block a few times. The defense team also included a Supreme Court specialist who had argued before the Supreme Court dozens of times, so they were fully equipped to do whatever was required. She also took a risk by adding a claim under the newly amended California Fair Pay Act because the law was untested. The fifth factor is that the case and/or attorney stands out in comparison to similar results. Equal pay cases are so rare, okay? You just don't see them. And why is that? They're hard to bring and hard to win. It's also exceedingly rare for a class action to result in payouts of upwards of $50,000. And finally, this case reaffirms that as trial lawyers, we have your back no matter who you are, even if you are an insurance defense attorney. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to say the sixth factor is service to CAOC. I don't have to tell you how devoted Laprairie is to CAOC, and it's not just what Laprairie and her team have done for CAOC on a daily basis, but it's also what this case does to inspire other CAOC members. And so I just want to note that on the equal pay issue, if we go at the same pace we've been going, according to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, we will have to wait until 2059. But I still believe in the words of Martin Luther King Jr. when he said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And I think it's cases like Coates versus Farmers that will help us bend that arc a little faster. Thank you.